What movie or series lit your fuse and made you have to tell stories on screen?
The story that lit my fuse and made me have to tell stories on screen was definitely Wong Kar-wai's film, Chungking Express. And it was interesting because I only found that film, I've told this story a couple times in the past, but I only found that film because I was at Blockbuster Video. I was looking at the foreign film section, and that film, back then when you could actually touch the cover, of the movie, it had Tarantino's face on the spine because QT had put out that movie here in the States. And I remember thinking, what is the Pulp Fiction guy doing with this Chinese film? And so I just grabbed it off the shelf, popped it in, and I was just completely blown away. I'd never seen a film that was made like that. And I thought, oh, I have to find a way to make films like this. And the other film I was considering talking about was Die Hard, which is a very different film than Chungking Express. The first time I saw it was on cable. Every holiday season. This is why every now and then on Twitter, this debate will break out. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And I'm like, yes, Die Hard is definitely a Christmas movie, because I remember watching it multiple times every Christmas. It would just be on television. And always loved the film, even as a kid, because I must have been 10, 12 years old at this time. McClane was somebody you could root for. Didn't realize it at the time, but he always somehow, he had these black dudes who were helping him solve these battles. In Die Hard, it's the limo driver, and then the dad from 227. I think his name was Reginald Bell Johnson. I think was the actor's name. I think he's passed. And then in Die Hard with a Vengeance, Sam Jackson comes into play. Zeus. And so I don't know. I always really gravitated towards those films, and it is related to filmmaking, because I didn't realize I wanted to be a filmmaker at the time. But after watching this movie at least 15 times over the course of several holiday seasons, finally, okay, well, they normally speed the end credits. For whatever reason, this playing of it, they let the credits play out in real time. And I sat there and I realized, oh, all those people made this movie. That's a lot of people. What are they all doing? And it just kind of just lodged in the back of my head. And then when I actually started making films, of course, I'm not necessarily making things in the style of Die Hard, but I think the energy of discovery is still with me. But I remember all the films I'd seen to this point, they all kind of relate time in the same way. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think the way Wong Kar-wai is playing with time in this movie, which is two short films, as a feature film, but the way he's playing with time, I don't know, it kind of revealed something different about the way we experience time. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. I didn't realize you could do this this way. And then here were these people on the other side of the planet. I just happen to be in Hong Kong right now, which is where that film is shot and set. But I thought, oh, I never thought my life could be relatable to someone who lives on the other side of the planet. And then I was watching this film and realized that it definitely could.
On your way up, what movie or series did you watch that was so good it made you question if you could ever rise to that level?
Yeah, I'd say there were two. You keep saying movie and series, so I'll mention one of each. The movie was another film by Wong Kar-wai, In the Mood for Love. I just wanted to watch everything. So I was like, what else does this guy have? What else can I see? And so I watched pretty much all the films he had made to that point. And In the Mood for Love actually came out while I was in film school. And so I caught up to it and realized, oh, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I can ever capture. And this is, again, it wasn't about craft or technique. It was about, this guy was able to just capture a feeling. He was able to capture emotions. He was able to suspend time, Mike. He could suspend time. And in that suspension, he could force the audience, I won't say force, he could allow the audience, enable the audience to just live in these emotions in this very timeless way. I thought, oh, I can't do that, can I? Maybe I should stop, because if I can't do that, what's the point? Nobody needs to watch my stuff. They can just go watch Wong Kar-wai stuff. This guy's a master. In the series, I would say, Charles S. Dutton directed The Corner for HBO, which is kind of like it preceded The Wire. I think they were both David Simon projects. And I remember watching The Corner. It's interesting. I just made a limited series. The Corner is kind of one of the earliest prestige limited series. And I think Mr. Dutton actually won. I think he's the only Black director to win directing in that category. But I remember watching that and being like, this is insane. It's television, but it's not moving in the way that television normally does. Because at the end of this episode, I'm not getting this thing neatly tied up in a bow. And it was also relatable to my own life growing up. And so that series, I also thought, shit, I don't know that I can do this, man. Maybe I should check myself and go back and be a high school English teacher. But somehow I kept going, man. I kept going.
Whether it was your own work or approval from someone who mattered to you, what first gave you the confidence that you belonged?
It was a couple things, man. I'll tell my earliest memory of something like this happening when I was in the 3rd grade. Now I'm going way back, Mike. Time capsule. I had this teacher who, I grew up in the world of the film Moonlight that we put out a few years ago. And me and all the kids in the school, none of us ever really got out of that neighborhood, but my grandma would take me fishing on the weekends to the Florida Everglades. And when my teacher found out, she said, hey, what'd you do this weekend, Barry? I said, oh, we went fishing in the Everglades. What was that like? And I told her what it was like. She goes, you should write that down. I go, huh? She goes, oh, you should write it down. And then maybe you could read it to the class. I go, what? Why? And she says, oh, because no one else gets to experience those things on the weekend. You should share it. And I thought, oh. And that's my earliest memory of someone telling me that my story was worth telling or worth sharing. And then as a filmmaker, I was in film school. I was obsessed with Warren Kar-wai. I thought I can never do what this guy does. I literally left the film school for a year. I told the dean there, I want to be here, but I don't know that I can do this. Can I take a year off and try to teach myself how to do it? I took the still photography class. I basically created my own crash course in filmmaking. And then I came back and I made this short film shortly after 9/11. It was about this Arab-American couple washing American flags for free, as a sign to the city that they were patriotic. And it was in French and Arabic. It's about Napoleon and Josephine. I mean, it made no sense. But what it was about was trying to suspend time, and just fill that time with this almost everlasting experience of an emotion, what it would feel like to be these people. People were saying being Arab American is the new Black. And I was like, oh, I'm Black and I was raised in the South. I know exactly what that feels like. Maybe I can transmute this feeling to these characters to show that I can empathize with them. And it worked. And I remember this professor, Dr. Richardson, she came up to me and she just young, this older Black woman. She kind of built the program and she was who we all looked up to. And I think for the first time she patted me on the back. She said, not bad, Barry, not bad. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I should keep doing this. Oh, very muted response. It was like, again, it's elementary school, like this nerd, this nerd teacher's pet. Oh my God. I actually got killed for it a bit. But then the next week, she had me do the same thing. And I did notice some of the kids, they were waiting for those stories. I don't think we did them every week because we didn't go fishing every weekend, but sometimes we'd actually go out, my Uncle Mickey would rent a boat or we'd get on these deep shore fishing boats with these guys, and we'd go out fishing and I'd come back and be like, yo, you know what a marlin really looks like? And I could describe to the kids what a marlin really looks like when it comes out of the water. And I would see even through the posturing that, some of the kids were actually interested in those stories because if I could get out and go on this boat and see these fish, so could they.
What was the biggest obstacle you overcame that allowed you to turn the projects that influenced you into your own language?
I think the biggest obstacle for me was having patience with myself, especially as a young person. I can't say you. Normally I say, you want it all. I'll say I wanted it all. And once I got over that initial hurdle, because, when I went to film school, we still shot everything on film. And it was difficult, bro. You couldn't just pop in that memory card and see exactly what you had. You had to really understand the chemical processes and all these other different things. Once I got past that hurdle, I thought, okay, great. Now I'm just going to make films. But then there's this whole system you have to navigate. There's this whole machine you have to orchestrate. And it was one of those things where I had to have the courage to be able to fail. Because in film school, the film school I went to, everything was provided for you. You know exactly when you're going to make a film. All the film stock is provided, all the equipment is provided. It's a great way to learn how to create a film. But then how to manifest the film is a whole different thing. And I was afraid of failing at that, because there was a point in my life, Mike, where I realized this is what I had. This is what I have. Like, this is the only thing that I kind of know I can do, the only thing that I really want to do, and the only thing that, again, going back to this idea of this woman, this Pamela Gilzo, encouraging me to share my story with the class. This is that same thing, but in a much greater form. And I was scared to try and fail at it, because if I did, I didn't know what the hell I was going to have in the aftermath. And, you know, I still work with, you know, all these kids. You know, we're in our 40s now, but I still call us kids because we met when we were kids, who I went to film school with. And the thing that got me through the obstacle was all those kids always step after step going, no, if you fail, we will fail with you. Let's go, let's do it. That's how we made our first feature, for a budget of like $13,000 that was put up by this guy, Justin Barber. And I don't get to tell this story often enough, Wes Ball, the director of the Maze Runner series, and now Planet of the Apes. We all went to school together, and those guys were like, hey, we believe in you. Here's $13,000, which, thinking of it, who makes a film for $13,000? But we did it, man. We went off and we did it. You know, you have to learn this lesson over and over and over again. And now I'm in my 40s, and hopefully I've learned enough that I won't have to go through it again. But I just got away from myself, man. And it sucks because, you know, had I stayed myself, I probably would have fulfilled the promise that John and James Seamus saw in me.
How has the explosion in streaming changed the way you work?
I don't know that it's changed the way I will work as a director. I think as a producer, it has changed the way I work to some degree. You know, I do think there's just a lot of opportunity now for people to get their feet in the door to tell stories. I think that's a really great thing. You know, I'm someone who just directed 10 hours of a streaming limited series, and making that thing, you know, I tried, you know, every way I could to not alter the language of it. You know, I think the storytelling format of it, we did bend ourselves to the medium. It's television, so you have to create it, you know, in the ways of television. And yet, imagistically, we tried to approach it the same way. It's showing in a theater at the IFC Center this week. They're showing all 10 episodes in these 2-episode blocks. And man, I've seen 2 films in theaters since everything slowly opened back up. I saw Janexa Bravo's Zola, and I also saw the restoration of One Car Wise in the movie Love, of course. And I purposely did not watch Zola on a small screen. I had the opportunity to multiple times, and I'm so glad I didn't. And even though I was in this massive theater and there were maybe 5 people, I think even for the 5 of us, I still felt connected to them in this way, even spread out around the room. And so whatever changes have been made, I hope we take those changes and harness them in addendum to also getting back to having butts in the damn seats, having butts in the damn seats, having butts in the damn seats. And it's not about commerce to me. It really is about, you know, being a kid standing in front of a classroom, and instead of telling a story to one person, telling it to 30 people, you know, and watching the wave of that story just make its way from kid to kid to kid, and understanding, oh shit, we just shared this thing. This thing happened to me, and now us, this group of us, these 30 kids in the projects, we just shared the experience of this marlin coming out of water. That's magic, man. That is magic. And streaming is really wonderful. It's beautiful. I don't think I could have made this show, The Underground Railroad, under any other circumstances. And yet, it's just, there's nothing. You just came from Cancer, you know. There is nothing like it. And so I hope these changes are an addendum to, not a replacement of. That's what I got to say about that.